PCT presents Public Report, a look at the issues and events of importance to our viewing area. Now, here's your host.
Hi, welcome to Public Report. My name's Randy Lincoln, and I'm a Senior Sales Director with Mary Kay. Join us today for our guest, and I'm really excited about that. This is Tricia Neary, and Tricia is not only the Sales Director of Lutheran Life Villages right now, but boy, have they got some projects in the works, and I do pluralize that. Tricia, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you.
Wow. Tell us a little bit about Lutheran Life Villages right now.
Lutheran Life Villages has been around for about 80 years. We have 2 existing locations. We have one in Noble County that sits in Kendallville, and then we have one that's located on South Anthony, which is, it's the 2nd largest in the state of Indiana. So it's rather large in size, and those are our 2 existing campuses.
Okay. Now, it used to be called?
It used to be called Lutheran Homes. Back in 2009, we changed our name to Lutheran Life Villages.
Okay.
So we're getting used to calling ourselves that and kind of phasing out some of the older names. But people still associate that we are Lutheran faith-based and we're a not-for-profit organization. So
very good. Well, and the reason I asked that is because many, many moons ago when I was in nurses training, that was where I did my clinicals, and it was Lutheran Homes out on Anthony.
Yeah,
so, and
good.
It was just awesome. But you have some things going on right now for the future of Lutheran Life Villages that are really going to impact Fort Wayne in such a positive way. So tell us about phase number 1.
Yes, well, phase number 1 is due to open next month, and it's there on Coldwater Road. It's going to be our skilled nursing and rehab location. We're going to have about 84 beds there, and we're really going to specialize in that short-term rehab.
Okay.
What you're seeing a rise of that need of people going to the hospital, having their hip replaced, knee replaced, pneumonia, and they're needing to rehab. The great thing about this location is we're giving them private suites to do their rehab. So they're able to go in and have their own private setting, have the therapist either come into their room or they go to their private rehab gym, and we're going to get them recovered and back to home in a quick fashion. So
84 beds. Wow. And one of the reasons that I was so excited about this, and I'm going to share with some of our viewers, is my husband, his grandfather, that was his grandfather's homestead, and my husband grew up on that property.
Wow.
And that was the Lee family quarter horse farm, and Fred Lee, who was well known in the city of Fort Wayne, would be very honored that that was what the property was going to be used for, because he was all about helping people. So, but I got to tell you, I did not know that the property had been sold. And I was driving down Coldwater Road, and as I got to the homestead property, it was all leveled. The big barn with Lee on it was gone. And I pulled into the driveway and just sat there and cried, because there went all that history, but change is inevitable. And I think that it's a real blessing that that property is going to be used for this.
Well, good.
So I know that's phase 1, and that's going to be opening when?
That'll open in June, at the end of June, beginning of July, depending on how construction all goes out. But we will have an open house June 28th that we would invite the public to come out to. It's going to be from 4:30 to 7:30. So, shortly after that time, we're going to be having people move in to live there. So. Wow,
that is amazing.
Yes.
And it's a huge facility. I don't know if you've been out there and you've looked, but wow, go out Coldwater, just south of DuPont Road, and you'll see on the east side of the road this huge property that is being built. It's just beautiful. It really is. So I'm excited about that. And I want you to talk about phase 2 that is not even started yet.
Yes. Well, we're in the startup phase of a retirement apartment complex that will open. It's only about 2 miles north of our current location that'll open on Coldwater. So if you go up over DuPont, past Union Chapel, we've purchased land there on the left-hand side. And there's a sign out there, so you're going to be able to see it when you drive by. what this is going to be, it's going to be 120 independent living apartments. And they're going to go all the way up to a little over 1,500 square feet. There's going to be 14 different floor plans to choose from. And currently today, if you're interested, we do have an information center that's located off Union Chapel Road. And you can actually see a scale model of what the land's going to look like, and then walk into a model apartment. So you can really get an idea for this. Since it's not opening till 2014, you can kind of get a feel for what it's going to look like and what we're kind of going for there.
So this is not any nursing facility, or this is totally independent retirement center?
Correct, yes. Okay. There will be assisted living, and then there's going to be memory care assisted living, because we all know individuals who physically they're absolutely fine, but maybe mentally they've struggled. And so giving them a place where they can still live in an apartment and be independent, but have that backup care there that's for the memory part, to remind them to eat and take their medications. So there is going to be a section for that, but it's not going to be the nursing care. Nice. It's going to be the independent living lifestyle.
Okay, so that is on the west side of the road.
Correct.
Just about 2 miles?
Yeah, it's about 2 miles from the north location, the Coldwater location that will open in June. So,
okay. Now, how many bed facility is the one on Anthony right now?
Well, the one on Anthony, we have independent living, assisted living, and the health care. We're considered a continuing care retirement community.
Okay.
So we see all of them. And so we have 150 apartments in the independent living. We have about 75 in the assisted living, which are more like studio apartments. They're able to get their 3 meals a day. It's just people who are still independent but need assistance in one area. And then back in the health care, we're actually moving some of those beds that are Medicaid certified to our Coldwater location. So we're going to be losing some of the number there, but we're licensed for 262, I believe, on that campus between the assisted living and the health care. Now that number will go down in a few months here after we move those, but that's where they get the number for the size that we rank in the state of Indiana.
Okay, so now that we've opened up that box, Medicaid, Medicare accepted and utilized there.
Yes, all of our campuses are going to be able to accept Medicaid or Medicare. So Kendallville and our South Anthony currently do today. And those beds that are going to be on that Coldwater campus for the skilled nursing rehab will be duly certified. So we can take both Medicaid and Medicare.
Wow. Well, tell us about you and how you came to be involved with Lutheran Life Villages, Tricia.
Yeah, well, interesting story, talking a little bit about Lutheran Homes and Lutheran Life Villages. I interviewed with the company when it was Lutheran Homes, and my first day on the job, which was August 10th of 2009, was the first day it was called Lutheran Life Villages. So they had a party for me. We had a big ribbon cutting ceremony and announced the name change.
Just for you.
Yeah, exactly. It happened to be my first day there. So I've been with it since it's been Lutheran Life Villages. I started as the wellness director there and really promoted that lifestyle. That reason why we changed our name. Put the word life in there to promote that lifestyle throughout all levels of care. And by doing that, I was doing a lot of community involvement, talking about our lifestyle there. And then so the natural transition just became that, about 8 months ago, I'm in this role now, out talking to the community about why we're a great place to live and the kind of lifestyle that we do promote there. So,
well, and I know that we can come out and we can ask for you.
Absolutely.
And you'll give us tours and just kind of explain to us. I know because you just did a presentation recently with me, kind of explain to the public the difference between assisted living and, retirement facility. I know that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions out there as to when you're starting to look at needing assistance. It's, well, do I qualify for independent living, assisted living? What we do is we have a whole team that actually goes through and helps assess you through that process. They sit down and they talk with the family, and basically what they determine is if you can live on your own and you don't need meal reminders, medication reminders, you don't need help transferring from like a bed to a chair. If you don't need any assistance, then you qualify for our independent living apartments. Okay. Now in independent living, you can still utilize a home care service or home health care if you do have small needs, but you would pay for that on your own independently. Okay. Now what will happen is if we see someone starting to maybe forget to take their medications, or they're really struggling with one aspect of activities of daily living, like bathing, preparing their meals, dressing themselves, we'll talk to them about potentially moving over to assisted living, where we always have an RN on staff, so they are able to go in and give that medical attention that's needed for those individuals. And so that's kind of where we can determine that. But the great thing is you don't really have to worry about that. We're going to help you through that process and make sure that you're placed in the right level of care.
Wow.
So.
You know, that speaks volumes to some of us who have worked with our elders, and we can see that some things are going on, but we don't know how to help. And to be perfectly honest, when we see it and we approach our family members, we're not real well received, because it's like we're taking their independence away.
Absolutely.
But I think that when someone else that they know cares about them approaches them and says, you know, we see this, how about moving? I'm sure there's still a little bit of kind of, you know, hold back, but when they know that it's because someone cares for them, there's a big difference there.
Right.
There's
Absolutely.
a big difference there.
And the family involvement's huge. I mean, through that assessment process, not only do we see what the potential resident is doing, but talking to that family is important too, because they are going to see more behaviors, aspects, things that have gone on that maybe the resident themselves isn't familiar with or knows is even happening. So, but it's very important to get them to the right level of care early, because we do see their quality of life be maintained for a longer period of time.
Wow.
So.
Well, and to be perfectly honest, there's not really another facility in Fort Wayne right now that only does the rehab.
Right.
And so this is going to be really big on Coldwater Road, just to have that ability to have a private room. And I know that you were sharing that the way the rooms are situated allows them to be private, but still.
And that's in the long-term care. We will be able to house some people long-term on that Coldwater campus. And the rooms are separated as such, so we can still you know, work for the Medicaid, where they have to be in a semi-private, but they don't have to, you know, be able to see their neighbor. And so there's a wall that kind of helps divide that. You know, they can have their own separate TV. They will share a bathroom, but still it's only 2 people to the one bathroom, and it still has its own private shower in those dual rooms. Now all those rehab rooms are completely private. You don't have a roommate at all, so they are completely private suites. So
that's huge.
Yeah, it's what people want. It's what we need, and you know, we all want our privacy, and we all want to be able to do what we want when we want, and not have to have anybody else involved in our routines. So it's going to be a great perk for people.
Well,
moving.
and honestly, working with my family members who have gotten older, I think the older that they get, the more they want.
Sure, absolutely.
Just that private time to do whatever they want when they want it.
Absolutely.
And that's okay.
They've worked their whole life to be able to have that right.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and it looks like with the retirement facility that's going in later, that they kind of have that ability to do the same thing at the South Campus. They can kind of move. And now that they'll have 2 separate facilities out north, but they'll be able to kind of do the same thing.
Absolutely. Even though we're only 2 miles from each other, we're still going to have that great communication where we start to talk about if someone needs to move to a different level of care. And it's just a 2-mile jog down the street. So even though on South Anthony it's convenient because it's all, you know, under one hallway, but this, you know, we'll be able to still accomplish that with an individual. Well,
and I know that, you know, Lutheran, because it was called Lutheran Home, and I was also training at Lutheran Hospital. Do the 2 have any connection?
No.
There's absolutely none.
We ask that all the time if we're part of Lutheran Health Network, and we are not. We are associated with 62 Lutheran churches. That's where our heritage comes from. That's who we're associated with. That's how we get the Lutheran name. We have a chaplain that gets called to our you know, campuses every year, and that is able to provide those Lutheran services. But to follow up with that, you do not have to be Lutheran to live there.
Thank you.
That's another question we get then is, well, do I have to be Lutheran to live there or to work there? And we have services. We do have 6 Lutheran services every week, Monday through Friday and Sunday, but we do offer Catholic services and non-denominational services as well. And then, of course, you don't have to be Lutheran to work there. You know, we just promote a Christian lifestyle and promoting Christ's love in everything that we do, but it doesn't necessarily have to be of the Lutheran denomination.
That's wonderful. Well, and I think it answers a lot of questions for people too. And I know that there's some volunteer opportunities. There's a lot of things going out at Lutheran that we don't even know about. Share some of those things.
Yeah, well, we just actually got done with our big annual garage sale that our volunteers put on every year, and it's a fundraiser for them to try to raise funds. And basically we have an auxiliary group that takes place at each of our campuses. They go in and they volunteer to, maybe they do one-on-one visits with the residents that are in the health center. Maybe they put on activities that whether it's bingo, and they get bingo prizes to come in. They do a lot of different things where it's kind of behind the scenes stuff. We always have our individuals that we see that are up before I even get in there, and they're hauling furniture from one room to the next. They're helping get all these things put together. They're maybe cleaning. They're helping human resources file employee records. They're very busy. And what's great is that you don't have to be a resident to be a volunteer, but a lot of our independent living residents do volunteer because it gives them something to do every day, and it gives them a purpose. And honestly, we wouldn't be able to survive if we didn't have that volunteer program, because they do so much for behind the scenes work for us. So.
Well, and did I hear that you had a reading program going on with some of the adult residents?
Yes, we have a couple different, in terms of a reading program. We have a children's village that's attached to our South Anthony campus. So volunteers can sign up through our volunteer program and go over to Children's Village and read to children over there, which is 4 and a half or younger. Or we have the volunteers who will go into seniors' rooms and maybe read them Bible verses, or maybe we'll read hymns with them. Things that maybe they're not able to read anymore, whether it's because they can't see it anymore, or maybe they just, they can't stay awake long enough, or whatever, for whatever reason, they're able to go in and do those one-on-one visits with them and be able to read whatever materials it is that they would want. So.
Wow. As you talk about this, the campus has grown so much out on Anthony. I can't even imagine as I go by now, because it certainly wasn't that big when I started,
right.
But to know that there's that much going on out there and we don't even know, maybe you've heard this and you feel a call to help people or volunteer. I know that if you get a hold of Tricia Neary, give a call out to Lutheran Life Villages, or get a hold of us here at Public Report at tct.tv, we will get you in touch with Tricia Neary so that she can find out what your niche is, how you can help, how you can volunteer, because we just can't do it by ourselves.
Right, absolutely.
And volunteering is what it's all about. Maybe you can just read to somebody, maybe just being there. Maybe you want to provide flowers, a floral shop. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can help. Tell me about, do you have like a restaurant opportunity where people can come in and, from outside facilities and eat with people, or?
Yeah, we have a restaurant that is in our independent living side where we have a chef, and the meals are prepared just like a restaurant that you or I would go to, and we order off a menu. Or we have the 2 dining rooms, which also are served restaurant style in the Assisted Living and Health Center on our South Anthony campus, and then that's mirrored in our Kendallville campus. And people can go in and they can purchase meal tickets and eat with the residents, maybe family and friends, whatever they'd like to do. They're able to utilize those services. So.
All right, so you really encourage people to come in.
Absolutely. We host a lot of senior groups, a lot of churches, YMCAs. They have senior groups, or they have Bible studies that get together. We will host them at our site for free. We give them the room, and then they're able to order a meal from our restaurant, from our chef, and because we have a ton of space there. So if you need a room, we're able to accommodate meetings or conferences or those small group settings, as a service and something we offer back to the community.
Wow, you heard it. If there's a meeting that you need to have, they've got free meeting rooms and are willing to have you come in. And once again, a good reason to get a hold of Tricia to find out what's available. And the things that we don't know are so important, and there's so much going on in this city. And I never would have even thought about calling Lutheran Life Villages for a meeting room, but what a great opportunity. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Let's say that, because I know I've done this before, I have a youth group and we want to just come and visit and offer our services. What would we be able to do to help?
Yeah, well, our most popular thing is Christmas caroling at the holiday season. We have a lot of young groups that'll come in, and maybe they pass out goodies to the seniors as they go through, and they do Christmas carols. The other thing is we host a senior prom every year, and young high school students come in and they'll ask one of the seniors to go to the prom with them, and they go out and we have dance music, and it's a big party for them. We have a lot of other opportunities as well, because those young kids can do a lot of things that maybe those seniors can't anymore. So even if we have some things
they can do a lot of things I can't do.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we have some projects that maybe require a little bit more manpower, and maybe it's crawling up on ladders to help hang Christmas lights or decorate a room, we have groups that'll come in for that as well, which is a great opportunity. Again, those intergenerational programs that we look for to kind of mix the generations and get them working together and realizing they're not so different from each other. They're just different in age. And so it's a great opportunity. We love to see the high school groups come in, and some of them even come in just to do performances. We've had choirs come in and sing or do a practice rehearsal for a concert they have coming up, and seniors will gather and watch that as well. So we have a lot of opportunities for young children and teenagers to come in.
Well, and I think that's so important that our kids get to see that, because unlike what we used to have in our lives, you know, families lived with 3 and 4 families together, and we learned to deal with each other's personalities. We learned to be tolerant. We learned to be patient, and we learned about Jesus Christ through each other. And then all of a sudden, we don't have that family dynamic anymore. We're all separate, you know, into family, and we don't have the ability to learn about our elder, you know, family, our grandparents, our great-grandparents. We don't spend enough time with them to really learn about what was important to them and what life was like when they were there. And I think that's one thing I've found whenever we take either the middle school or the children or the high school in, they're just enamored. You'll see them just sitting, you know, at the feet of the elders, and the elders are sharing these stories that can't be made up. And these kids get a whole different vision of what life was like that they don't even know about. So that's the education that we can't pass along, that the elderly can, and they do it so well because it was so heart to them.
Absolutely.
So we'll put my youth group down as you open in June, and let us know what we can do to help, because that's definitely ministry.
Absolutely.
And we need to be able to do that. Well, we're so excited about your grand opening. I personally am excited to watch the family homestead become part of that. I know that there's one little house sitting on the north side, and that was actually where my husband grew up. They actually moved that from down where 69 and right across from Northrop, that house sat right there, and they lifted it up and they brought it all the way down the street and put it there. And that's the only thing that's left of that family homestead is that little house where he grew up. So still kind of there, but I can't believe that Lutheran Life Villages grew up all around that, and there sits that little yellow house still there on the corner. So, well, congratulations to what's coming to Fort Wayne. So needed, and such a beautiful campus that's going in out there. And I'm really excited to learn about the new, you know, independent living that's going in 2 miles down the road. It's needed out there. I think their placement was wonderful. We'll look forward to your grand opening. And Tricia, thank you for all the information that you brought to us today. One last thing that I would like to talk to you about, as we see people, maybe they're not physically needing to go into a nursing home, but we do want them in a retirement facility for their sake also. Maybe a little different than just independent living. It sounds like this new place that's coming is going to be perfect. But when you approach them about that, and you know, I'm of that age too. I personally am looking forward to getting into a facility where I don't have to mow, I don't have to weed, I don't, you know,
maintenance free.
Sounds good to me. But when you talk to people about that, they're like, I would never do that. I want, you know, how do you help them make that transition?
Well, I think the important thing is to first realize that you're only part of the equation. And I think a lot of people feel a lot of pressure, like, I have to convince mom that she needs to move. And so realizing that there's a lot of different components that go on. You have a doctor, you have the spouse possibly involved, you have a lot of children involved. So getting everybody on the same page and really realizing what is best, maybe for your parents or grandparents or whoever you're looking for. I think the next step is, once everyone's on the same page, is to seek out a professional. And whether that's someone at a community, just getting the information out. That professional knows how, it's a very difficult problem, a very difficult decision in this person's life. I mean, it's usually the last move that someone makes, and so it's really crucial that they make the right decision. And so just by getting that person to talk about what's available, maybe kind of soften some of those, you know, barriers that they've put up about, there's a lot of stigmas about, well, I'm going to be put in a wheelchair and I'm going to have to do this and they're going to make my schedule for me. So being able to educate them on, no, these are apartments. It's no different than an apartment complex you or myself would live in, and you get to do what you want. You get to come and go as you please. It's just the comfort of knowing you don't have to worry about some of those tedious tasks anymore. So you can really focus on successfully aging and having a great quality of life. And I think that that's the next step, is having that professional kind of help make sure that that person's educated on what is it like to live in this kind of community.
Yes.
You know, it's not the traditional nursing home that you think of. It's an apartment complex, and that's the first step. And our goal is, if we can get you there early enough and get your quality of life and promote those wellness programs and lifestyles, that you'll never have to move to a nursing setting, that you'll be able to age in place and have that great quality of life. So,
well, and I think you're exactly right. That stigma of nursing home. It kind of envelopes the whole thing, and people just don't even want to look at anything else. And I learned so much with your presentation and sharing about just the differences between what is assisted living and what is rehab and what is, you know, independent living. And I don't think we even think about it like that.
Right. No, we just put it all into one category, and it's very different things. So.
It really is. Now, I know that memory loss, dementia, and Alzheimer's are completely different things. Do you have care as the Alzheimer's and the dementia comes into play?
Absolutely. And on our South Anthony campus, we have a specialized secure memory care. It's more of the health care centered. The one that's going to open in 2014, that apartment complex, that's where those individuals who are still physically well, but maybe just mentally are struggling. That's where they can live in their own apartment-like setting. It's still going to be a secured unit. It's still going to have the staff. We put our staff through a pretty strict training program, because we want them to make sure they really understand the disease and how people cope with it. What kind of things do we have to do? There's special programming that we put into place. And so we really are sensitive to all of those things to make sure that that person doesn't have any fears and doesn't, you know, and the family knows that they're being taken care of, and that, you know, mom or dad isn't missing a meal, or their quality of life isn't suffering because, unfortunately, you know, they have the disease of Alzheimer's or dementia. So
yes, well, and it is striking a lot of people, and it is a very difficult thing to deal with, especially if you're emotionally involved with that family member. It's not only hard, but they don't know who you are. And sometimes they do, but it's very infrequent. So once again, why don't you tell us when we plan on opening so that we can be ready for the grand opening?
Yes. No, the open house is on June 28th, and it's from 4:30 to 7:30, and I'd appreciate everyone to come out and take a look. And, you know, we'll be giving tours that night. You can get information. You know, one of the things we didn't mention today is we're bringing over 100 jobs to Fort Wayne as well, which is great news. Yes. And so even if you're interested in employment opportunities, because we're not going to have a full staff at first, because people have to move in. You know, it's a new campus. It's not going to be full of residents. So getting all that information will be great. And so it's an open invitation, so feel free to come out.
Awesome. So. Well, thank you, Tricia Neary, Sales Director at Lutheran Life Villages. We're excited about your new campus opening, and come and join all of us at Lutheran Life Villages on Coldwater Road, just south of DuPont, June 28th. We'll see you there, and Tricia will be there to help us with tours and treats and more education. Thanks again for Public Report. Join us again.
This has been Public Report. Public Report discusses the issues of interest and importance to our viewing area. Please remember that the views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of TCT or the station.